Hi guys, this is Heather. We'll get started in just a minute. I'll share my screen. Hi Gretchen. Okay. I'll just give it another minute and then we'll start. I know we got several people on. Thanks for dialing in. What did I just do? Oh, okay, never mind. Still getting used to the Zoom thing. Oh. Okay. So when we get started, we have Gretchen Miller who's going to be doing our training today. So I'm going to have her go first before, I'm going to have you go first, Gretchen, before I do like the recognition. And I think it's pretty easy for us to share your screen. I think, do you have a thing, Gretchen?
You want to try it once?
Yeah.
Okay. I have it pulled up on Google Drive, so see if you can see it.
Let's see. Do you have a button on your thing to like share screen? Oh, to share screen, like at the top.
It says share content.
Actually, maybe I have to make you as a host first.
I have one that says share content, but I don't know what that means.
No. Okay, I know how to do it. I have to give you control. So hold on. Did you get something pop up?
Oh. It says tap here to control Heather's screen.
Okay, no, I didn't. That's not the right thing. Okay, I think actually I know how to do it. I need to stop my share. Okay.
I am the host now.
Okay.
So
So
you
I
want
think,
to see if it shows my screen?
yeah, I think it should be at the top.
Oh, okay. Hold on, let me go back. Is it? Oh, switch now. Share content. Google Drive.
Should say, oh, maybe try that, but it should say
No, I don't want to do this.
share screen. Like at the bottom, I mean. Mine's now at the bottom.
No, I have.
Gretchen, where it says participants invite, it should be one that says share screen.
Yeah, at the bottom.
I have chat, invite, mute all, and unmute all.
I have a share screen on mine.
Yeah, do you want to send one of us the presentation maybe? Like if
She
you,
doesn't have a share screen all because I didn't log in as an authoritative, so she should have it too because she's not an admin either.
Yeah, it just says chat, invite, mute all, unmute all.
Are you? And you're on a computer?
No, I don't have a. I'm on my iPad. I don't have a computer. I can
Oh,
do
that
this.
might be.
okay, that might be it. Do you want to email me the
It's on
link?
my Google Drive. I don't know how to.
Okay. Do you know how to share a Google Drive? Okay, so I'm gonna call Gretchen off to the side. Heather, do we want to just do the presentation first? I'll do that first.
Sure.
Go through the team.
Okay.
I'll call Gretchen and walk her through how to do that.
All right, yeah.
And by the
All
time
right.
we do the rest, we can be good to go. How's that sound,
Okay.
Gretchen?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll call you after we get through the first part of the presentation then.
All right. Okay. Sorry about that, guys, but we'll get this under control. Yeah, I know there's something weird with the iPad and sharing screens, and I don't know how to do that. And I don't know much about Google Drive either. So thanks, Nicole, for helping Gretchen figure that out.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not-
the only thing we use in my job.
I don't know much about that either. Okay, so let's begin. We'll do recognition, and then we'll have Gretchen do her lovely presentation afterwards, after we go through this. So thank you again. And sorry for the technical difficulties, Gretchen. I don't like this Zoom. Well, I'm just not used to it yet. Should say I don't like it. All right. So welcome to our call. If you're new to our team, this is our welcome slide with our team leaders, directors, and above. And we do our call the second Monday of every month at 8:30. So welcome. Just some regulatory reminders that we like to cover for anybody who's new, and just as a friendly reminder, we have 10 here that we like to cover that are very important. Our business model is based on holding invite-only events. If the public can attend, then it is not allowed. Please be sure to contact World Headquarters to clarify any situations that might be out of the ordinary as opposed to the invite-only. The responsible host letter must be signed before you actually start the wine tasting. You can bring hard copies or have them actually sign electronically on the app now, which is really handy. Those forms, actually, if you have the hard copy forms, World Headquarters asks us to hold on to those for a year. Attending and promoting your business at open houses, trade shows, craft fairs, expos is great. Just do not bring or serve any wine. They ask us to bring empty bottles of wine to a decorate table if you so desire. We are never permitted to charge for a tasting set or charge event guests to attend a tasting. Even if the money goes towards something else like food or room rental, we can't charge under any circumstances. Number 5, we can never accept cash or checks in our name. Make sure that your host pours the wine, no more than 1 to 2 ounces per person for each of the 5 wine sampled, or the guests can pour their own wine. We just cannot pour. Never deliver wine. Number 8, you cannot create your own offers such as free shipping, dollars off, 2-for-1, reduced shipping, anything to increase your sales on an event. You can create offers as far as getting bookings. Never serve anyone under the age of 21, and person under the age of 21 cannot participate in the tasting. And the last little sentence here, just make sure to review the policies and procedures in the back office should you have any questions about anything, or reach out to one of your uplines. Okay, welcome to the Grape Expectations team. We had 19 people join last month, which was amazing. Special shout out to the Northern Grapes. I think Nicole is going to cover that too. So I'll leave that for Nicole. But the Northern Grapes did a majority of this recruiting. So great job, guys. You guys were so awesome, on fire. So on this slide, we have all the new wine guides that have joined from January till now. So we have a ton of people, 19 from last month, and then so far we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for this month. So welcome to everybody who joined. I won't read all the names because there's so many, but I know some of you are on the call, so welcome. I know I posted on our team page that Rick had given our team a goal to add 14 new wine guides last month, and we surpassed that. We were one of the only teams that he gave each of the gems and a few other teams a goal, and we were one of a few that actually met the goal that he gave us. So yay us, or you guys. Whoever added, which is on our, actually I'm going to pass this on to Nicole next. if she's still there. Oh, there she is. Okay.
Okay, so I'm just gonna run through my team logistics. So as you guys know, Northern Grapes is a subdivision of Great Expectations. So in Northern Grapes, I do a leadership board every month. It says on here, I keep forgetting to change it. It's just 110 team members. It's actually more than that now. But here are my top people that have hit the 25% commission. Jean Devine was first with $39.58. Nancy Wehrman down in Texas was $3,008. Next is Gretchen Miller with $26.73, and we're going to be hearing from Gretchen tonight. She's going to be speaking for us, but she is a consistent hitter in recruiting and in sales and in everything, so it'll be great to hear what she does. Number 4 is Rebecca Stevenson at $19.91. Next is Christine Sampson Downs. This was her first month back in the business at $19.55. Number 6 is Katie Smith with $19.13. 7 is Sally Egging, $17.84. 8 is Morgan Williams with $16.71. And I would like to throw out that Morgan was doing her dissertation this month as well for her college. It's like a PhD degree. So she was like super busy doing those, and she was able to get some tastings in. That's crazy amazing. 9 is Kate Brandt with $15.87. Next is Ashley Lawton with $15.31. 11th is Bridget Swartza with $14.10. Next is Kathy Sokol with $13.52. Morgan Barr with her highest PV yet of $13.32. Sherry Smith with $13.23. Jamie Manning with $12.93. And then I had legit $12.50.09. So I just barely squeaked in there by a little less than a dime. But if you ever want to make this on my team, all I have to say is do 25% or more and you will be a rock star. So you can see I have a team over 110 members, only 16 people or above achieved that. So congratulations. Our overall team PV is, drum roll please, and Heather click, 44,980. That's awesome. We're really consistently driving above 40K a month. That's awesome. So congratulations to everybody that contributed to that. Next, we had 2 promotions this month. First, we had Tracy Seeley. She promoted to 1-star leader. So welcome to leadership, Tracy. The next was a really big promotion. Rebecca Stevenson hit team leader. One more click, Heather. There it is. Boom! Team leader. I put a little animation of this. So this is the first huge step in leadership. You now get I do believe it's a 1% team management bonus on her team sales. And it's really the first step towards elite leadership. So she gets some awesome recognition by the company. She also gets added to a company Future Gem page and lots of little perks. She's also going to be on the planning committee now for Great Expectations. So super exciting. Oh, and she gets a $100 bonus just for hitting team leader. So congratulations, Rebecca. Awesome job. And we just want to extend an invite out to everybody that we have an annual Finger Lakes meetup going on April 21st. It's open to anybody in Great Expectations. Here's some pictures of us last year. We are going to be doing this down in Seneca, and there's more details to come, but we really highly suggest that you come, set aside a whole entire day, come for 2 nights, whatever you want to do, and we're going to do some training, and then we're going to go around to some of the vineyards and do some wine education. So definitely a lot of fun. Highly suggest it. And plus, you get to meet everybody in the team that you hear about all the time. So it's a really nice team building thing as well. All right, and I'll hand it back over to Heather.
Okay, I was talking, but I forgot I muted myself. Thanks, Nicole. All right, so now I'm going to cover Great Expectations sales leaders for January 2018. There's going to be some repeats from what Nicole just covered. So I do the top 10 overall. We have Gina Devine with $3,959, and Gina made $1,188 last month in just her team sales. Nancy from Texas, $3,009, and Nancy made $902. Gretchen Miller, 2,673. Gretchen made 668. Rebecca Stevenson, 1,992, and she made 498. Christine Sampson Downs, 1,956. She made 489. Katie Smith, 1913, 478. Erin Sonker, 1,821, and she made 455. Sally Egging, 1,784, and she made 446. Kate Contento, 1,739, and Kate made 435. Ashley Severizzo, 1,684, and Ashley made 421. So great job, guys. We're January. Looks like our jump in January special helped us with our sales, and our overall team sales was 61,625. So great job to everybody. Our January top team builders, as I said, that we added 19, and I believe the Northern Grapes did 16 of this overall, right, Nicole? I know she's muted, but I believe you guys had 16. So we had Sally in a number one spot.
Yes, you're right, 16.
Okay.
So I had to get back to this page. I was looking at who was on. Oh, sorry, guys. I was creeping at all your pictures.
So that was amazing. So you guys really did awesome with your 16, and you've already got like 7 so far this month. So
yeah, we broke a team record last month. So
awesome.
we set 15 the year that Pennsylvania opened that September.
Yeah.
And so this was pretty awesome to watch and see. So congratulations, Northern Grapes.
Yes. So Sally was in the number one. I don't know if I said this already. Sally was in our number one spot with 3 new wine guides for January, followed by Bridget and Lauren Carabas had 2. And then Faith Dunkelberger, Rebecca Stevenson, myself, Gina Devine, Jessica Frank, Nancy Weirman, Christine Sampson Downs, Tracy Seeley, Nicole Lefebvre, and Jamie Manning, we all added 1 new grape to our bunch, so contributing to the 19. So let's see if we can get like 25 this month. That would be cool. Rick would be so excited. They're in this really big recruiting kick, as you might have figured out. So, all right. What do I have next? Oh, our green by 15. I know as I was making this slide, I realized that I forgot to create the event this month. But here's our green by 15 people so far as of today. We have Gretchen in our number one spot with 2,190, followed by Sally, Jamie, Kate, Gina, Kate Bryan, Corrine, Kelsey Carabas, Morgan Williams, Melissa Mueller, and Melissa Prescott. All of our green by 15. So that's in a few days. So I will just, like I usually do on the team page, do the random selection and post everybody who got it. And then I'll remember next month to make the event so you guys can give yourself your shout outs. And for those of you that are new, what is green by 15? It's a little contest that we run on the team page for anybody who has at least $600 in personal sales volume. By the 15th of the month, you're entered into this drawing to win some prizes. And the benefit of this is to front load your calendar and have your events at the beginning of the month. Sometimes this equals less stress at the end. You get paid at your title and you earn badges and get promoted. And last but not least, earn your full paycheck. So that's our little green by 15 contest. Are you new to the Vine? We have our Taste of the Business call also happening on the 15th of the month. Elizabeth Allen will be doing this at 8 o'clock Eastern time on the 15th. But don't forget, if you're not able to have somebody listen to the live call, they do have the recorded one available. And then our Rewind Wine Club subscriptions until February. We've got Jitterbug Perique and then Perique in small hours. Spring regional dates. Make sure if you live within driving distance of one of these to please be able to attend. One locally for upstate New York. We have the one closest to us is Worcester, Massachusetts. So if you're like in like eastern northern New York, this is a great one to attend. They also have a few in Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh and Harrisburg, and then I know our team is sporadic, so they have Denver, all of these. So I have an event created on our Grape Expectations team page of how to register for these. Julianne Jones is going to be presenting again, but I believe the regional planners have been getting feedback that they're having trouble with attendance because people were thinking the content was going to be the same, but they're going to be talking with Julianne Jones to change up some of her content. So I know I told a few people on the team that I thought it was going to be the same, and originally it was, but now they're going to be having it just switched up a little bit because we know people are attending multiple regionals from what they were in the fall. Okay, so we have our Grape of the Month. We do have a nomination for this month. So we are watching. Our Grape of the Month is somebody who has a great personality, is responsible, a team player, has a positive attitude, is empowering of the month. And drum roll, please, our Grape of the Month for February, make sure I'm in the right month, is Kate Bryant. So congratulations, Kate. Yay. Kate is a wine guide who joined fairly recently on October 9th, 2017. And here's one of her nominations. Kate has been a force to be beaten since she joined. She is also extremely helpful in helping any team member in need. Her ideas are innovative and refreshing. She was willing to do the team call and share her knowledge and is always positive and beaming. She definitely has leadership potential written all over her. This makes her the perfect candidate for Grape of the Month. So way to go, Kate. Congratulations, and thanks again for your training last month.
Heather,
Thank
for
you.
a second.
Huh?
I was gonna say, let Kate talk for a second.
Okay.
Oh, just thank you.
I could tell she wanted to say something.
Oh, I
I
don't
just
see.
wanted to say thanks.
Oh, you're welcome. Where are you? How come I don't see you?
Oh, I know. I have to scroll over. I don't know. I'm at the top of mine, but I had to scroll over to find everybody today. It looked different.
Yeah, because I still don't see you.
Yeah, it's weird. I had
Oh,
to
there you
scroll.
are. Hi.
Hi.
Usually when somebody talks, they like go up to the top.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's mine's weird tonight too. It looks different. Thank you.
You're welcome. So congratulations. All right. So I think Gretchen, or no, it wasn't you messaging me. Or was it you, Gretchen? Were you all set? Oh, you're muted. Oh, you're muted though. Oh, there you go.
Okay, here
So
I
you
am.
figured it out?
I think so. Can you see it?
Yeah, we can. Great. So you can do this on an iPad.
Yes.
Okay, we just
I
did.
had to, I figured it out. I don't know what I did.
All right, cool. Well, everybody, this is Gretchen, and she's going to talk to us about using science to add education to your presentation. So I'm excited to hear this. So take it away, Gretchen.
All right. Can you hear me okay? You can hear me? Oh, you muted
Oh,
yourself.
yes, I muted myself. Yes, we can hear you.
All right. All right. Hi there, everybody. Most of you know I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. And when I started Traveling Vineyard in 2016, Pennsylvania had just come on board with Traveling Vineyard, and there were no other wine guides in my area. So none of the guests at my events had ever seen anybody else's presentation. But now that we're growing and there's more wine guides, I sometimes hear that a guest has been to another wine guide show. And when that happens, something that I hear a lot is, oh, she was great, but I learned so much more at your presentation. And I think sometimes we get really caught up wanting to make sure that our presentations are fun and that we have prizes and giveaways and tickets. And we want to make sure people have a good time. But it's really important that we remember that Traveling Vineyard is supposed to be fun and educational. And luckily, Traveling Vineyard gives us everything that we need to be able to do that. All of our materials are full of educational tidbits that you can just pass on and share with your guests, but you have to utilize them. You have to get on and read everything that we give you. Have you actually read all of your Somology cards? Have you actually read all of the sell sheets that go with the wine? Have you read the Facebook pages and really research things? Because there is a ton of information out there for you to educate yourself. So make sure that you read everything that you have. Let's see if there we go. Yay, it works. All right, so this is an example of one of our sell sheets. This is Marula, one of my favorites right now. And I make sure that I print every single one of these off for all of our wines, and I read them with a highlighter in my hand. And anything that jumps out at me as interesting, I highlight it. Things that I want to make sure I tell people. So my pages, I'm talking with my hands like you guys can see me. My pages, they're all covered with highlighter, and I don't highlight everything. I don't read this entire page, but I read the things that are, or talk about the things that are interesting. What I do, here's an example. I have this in my binder of 2 of the pages. I print them all out. I highlight the stuff I want to mention. And as you can see, it's not everything. Please don't stand in front of your events and read all this, because that will put everyone to sleep. Just pick out the really cool stuff that you want to make sure that you mention. Whoever writes these puts the best information in there, and I just love them. So here's an example from the top of Marula's sell sheet. It talks about how Pinotage is a hybrid vine from Pinot Noir and Cinsault. I learned from reading the Convict Rewards sell sheet that Pinot Noir is kind of a diva grape, and it's really hard to grow and really hard to get a good crop of. So by crossbreeding it with Cinsault, which is a really hardy grape that grows everywhere, they're able to get the best qualities of both grapes. So it's a little bit like, you know, breeding dogs. If you have a Labradoodle, they breed those so that you can have the best qualities of both. It's the same way with grapes. They want to get the best qualities of both. So that would be a hybrid. It's a crossbreed. That is different than a blend. A blend would be when there's 2 individual grapes or their juices that the winemakers mix together to bring out the best qualities in both wines, like a cocktail almost. So like Hoot is a blend because it has Muscat and Symphony grapes in it. Tangle Rose is a blend because it's got Merlot, Zinfandel, Cabernet, Syrah, Pinot, a bunch of things in there. But the Pinotage is a hybrid because it's one plant genetically, not genetically engineered, crossbred of 2 different kinds of grapes. A couple other hybrids would be like Baca Noir or Catawba grapes. They're both hybrids as well. These are some reasons why winemakers might selective breed plants together to get a certain texture, a certain size fruit, to improve the taste or the color. So these are crossbreeds. And as I have at the bottom there, this is not GMO. We are doing nothing on a genetic level to these grapes. So if people ask if they're genetically modified or GMO, no, they are not. It is just crossbreeding. All right, another thing I make sure I mention is the alcohol content of the wines. And except for Fasada and Double Date, the alcohol content's always listed right there on the sell sheet. I explained that our lowest alcohol content wine is Fasada. It's about 6%. And our highest alcohol content wine is Small Hours. It's about 16%. So as we discuss the wines and their alcohol content, my guests all know about where each will fall. I explained to them that lower alcohol content wines are lighter body and higher alcohol content wines are fuller body. And so as we're going through our tasting and they're twirling the wine in the glass to check its body, once I tell them the alcohol content, they're starting to anticipate what it's going to look like in the glass. And I can hear them predicting. They'll say, oh, this one's really going to stick, or this one's not going to have legs. So they like to know what the alcohol content is so they can sort of mentally put it on this scale. And you can see by the image on the screen there that some of the wines, like some Rieslings and Moscatos, are sweeter, so they have lower alcohol. And wines like Syrah or Zinfandel are much drier, meaning they have higher alcohol. So I always explain that to my guests. And at this point, I usually talk about fermentation, and I like to use an image like this. Sugar and yeast together causes fermentation, which is basically the production of alcohol and CO2. The longer the yeast is allowed to eat up the sugar in the juice, the alcohol content increases while residual sugar or the sweetness decreases. When winemakers add sulfur dioxide, which is sulfites, it kills the yeast and leaves any remaining sugar in the wine, so you have some residual sweetness left over. If not enough sulfites are added, some yeast can remain and fermentation can restart and cause a secondary fermentation. And that's what happened in that last batch of Smirk. Our wonderful winemakers were trying to add as little sulfite as they had to. But unfortunately, if you don't add enough, it leaves some yeast in there and it can start to bubble in the bottle because more fermentation is going on. And I love this little Pac-Man guy here. He's a yeast cell, and it shows him eating the sugar and producing alcohol, and coming out his back end there is some CO2, and that's what makes the bubbles. So if you have a really high alcohol content wine, it is not going to be sweet. There's no way to have a sweet, high alcohol wine unless it's fortified. Fortified means they add extra alcohol to it, and Traveling Vineyard does not do that. A lot of times people on the website I'll see ask about port. Port is a Portuguese wine that has brandy added to it. Ignia is a Portuguese wine, but there's no other alcohol. Port usually has an alcohol content of about 20%, and we don't have anything that high. At this point, I'll usually talk about sulfites a little bit. Sulfites are sulfur dioxide, SO2, and it is what, thank you, Laura, it is what winemakers add to kill yeast. If you look at that picture of the grapes on the bottom, if you look at a red grape, they're very hazy and cloudy looking. That is natural yeast. That will wreak havoc in a winemaker's vats. They don't want that yeast doing its own thing. So they add sulfites to kill that yeast, and also to stop the fermentation process when they're ready. When the alcohol has the sweetness that they want it to have, they add sulfites to kill the yeast. And then if you look at that picture, you can see the yeast all settled on the bottom of that jar there. That's called the lees. So sometimes you'll read in our wine notes that a wine was left to sit on the lees. That means they let it sit on all that dead yeast. And what that does is give it a really bready, yeasty, toasty flavor. And that's the big difference between our Zephyr Hills and our Peekaboo Chardonnay. Zephyr Hills is let to settle on the lees. Peekaboo is not. So Zephyr Hills has more of that yeasty, rich, almost bready kind of flavor. All right, keeping on going down your wine sell sheet, they always give us a lot of really good information about the region and the climate. This is very important to grapes. This one says, it just mentions there that it's grown in the Western Cape region of South Africa. I got lost in my notes. All right. I talk about South Africa being a New World wine. New World wines are from places that are not historically winemaking places. Old World wines are like from Greece and France and Italy, Spain and Germany, the places that have been making wine for thousands and thousands of years. New World wines are places that are a lot newer and upcoming, like South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, the United States. And the difference there is that Old World wines are made a lot more with tradition. The winemakers have been making the wines the same way for hundreds, possibly thousands of years, and the tradition is the most important thing. New World wines, like in the United States, is more gimmicky. We're more willing to try new things, experiment with stuff. We want really high alcohol wines, and we change it up all the time. So South Africa is an up-and-coming New World wine place with lots of different traditions and lots of different techniques. This map shows you the warm and cool climate areas around the globe. And grapes that are grown in cool climates tend to have crisp, light flavors. Think about things like green apple, citrus, pear, green peppers, all those real kind of tart, green tasting things. Because it's a lot cooler there, and so those grapes don't get fat and juicy and jammy like warmer climate grapes. In these hot areas, and again, I'm talking with my hands and you can't see me, warmer climates tend to have the really tropical, fruity, jammy, tropical fruit flavored wines because it's a lot hotter and drier there. So the grapes get really ripe, but there's not a lot of rain. When grapes soak up a lot of rain, yeah, they get big and juicy, but there's not a lot of flavor in them because they're really watered down. So grapes that are grown in hot climates can be smaller and tighter in their bunches, but they have a lot more flavor in them. Something interesting I like on this map, I tell my guests a lot when I'm showing Fasada and Doubledate that Hammondsport, New York, in the Finger Lake region is such a great place for growing wine because it's on the same latitude as Champagne, France. And we all know France is a big grape producer. So you can see right there where that green line goes across, almost right from New York to France. So that's why both of them are really good grape growing regions. This image shows you some of the grape varieties, whether they grow in cool climates or hot climates. Way over on the left, I put a star there with Bella in it because she's a Pinot Grigio. She comes from a cool weather climate, so she has much tartar, crisper, green tasting fruit flavors. All the way over on the right at the bottom, you can see Zinfandel. Everybody talks about how Small Hours is so dry, but so fruit forward. And that's why, because it comes from a very hot climate, so its grapes are very fruity and jammy. A fancy word that you can use to impress your guests is terroir. Terroir is all the specific things in a region that are factors that affect what the grape tastes like. So for example, the climate, like we just talked about, if it's hot or cold. The soil. Vineyards are planted for very specific reasons because of the rocks and the minerals in the soil. We talk about the minerality in wine and how wine sometimes has that mineral or wet rock smell or taste. That comes from the rocks in the soil. So they're very important to the flavor of a grape. Down on the right, we have terrain. Grapes are affected by other flora in the area. Grapes, they do self-pollinate, but they do depend some on other pollinators. So if there's a lot of other flowering plants in the area, you're going to have a lot of pollinators that are going to affect them, as well as elevation. Temperature is cooler at higher elevations, and slope. Slope affects water runoff and also how much sun an area gets. And then also the tradition. If this is a wine area where there's a lot of strict traditions, that's going to affect the grape, and it's going to be known for that terroir, for those qualities in that grape based on specifically where it is grown. I'm sorry if I'm talking really fast. I'm trying to keep this down to a decent time frame. Another word that you can use during your tastings is appellation. Appellation is a specific region where a grape is grown. It's kind of like its pedigree. In Europe specifically, wines are often called by the area that a grape is grown. Not like here in the United States where we call them by the name of the grape. We have some examples of that, like in our Côtes du Rhône. Côtes du Rhône is not the name of a grape, it's the name of an area. So like Champagne can only come from Champagne, France. Burgundy can only come from Burgundy. And United States wine areas like Lodi and Napa. The grapes have to be from there for them to be able to put those names on the label. That is their appellation. When you drink a wine from a certain appellation, you come to expect certain qualities in that wine. That's why I use the word pedigree, because when you get a pedigreed dog, you know it's going to have certain qualities of that breed that are going to be constant and consistent. Appellation is the same thing with wine. So that's mainly a European thing, is calling a wine by its appellation. So you actually have to look up what grapes it's made from. All right, winemaking is my favorite place on our sell sheet because it has lots of good nerdy things to talk about. In this example from Marula, I love the fact it talks about cold soaking, it talks about maceration, it talks about oak, and it talks about tannins. Now, what I do with these, and I forgot to mention this earlier, the longer it takes the wine to go around the room, the more I talk. So I highlight these things. I don't always get to talk about all of them. If I have a small group and the wine gets around fast, I just cover the most important things. But sometimes if you've got a group of 18, 20 people and you're like, good Lord, what do I talk about while they're passing the wine? All these nerdy science things are fun to pepper in there. I have a separate slide for all of these words except for maceration, because maceration is basically just the crushing of the grapes. They use different tools for this, but basically in all winemaking, they have to crush the grapes. Excuse me. Except if you read the sell sheet for Convict's Reward, the Pinot Noir, they press those grapes very gently, because when you crush grapes, you break the skins, the stems, the seeds, and you get a lot of tannins out of those. By pressing the grapes really gently, they just pop them and get the juice out without getting a lot of the tannins. And that's why Pinot Noir and Convict's Reward are so smooth and mild, because they press them in such a careful way. Real quickly, this is cold soaking. Some of our wines will say that they are cold soaked. That just means they let the juice and the pulp and all the good stuff soak at a cool temperature. It's not cold enough to kill the yeast, but it keeps the yeast from making alcohol. So this way you get a much deeper, bolder color and a deeper, bolder flavor without making more alcohol, just by keeping that yeast at a temperature that's too cool for it to ferment. Oh, there's a blank slide. Tannins. Like I said, tannins come from parts of the grape. You can see here in this image that tannins come from grape seeds. They come from the grape skins. Some winemakers will actually add tannin powder if they want to get the tannin up really high. And also, they don't have in this image, but when they pick grapes, they often have a lot of the stem and the stick left on it. They actually crush that stuff right up with it. And so you can imagine like the tannins that would be in bark or wood, and you get a lot of that when they macerate the grapes. For example, dark chocolate and black tea are also really high in tannins. So you know, the longer you let your tea bags soak, the more bitter your tea becomes. Same way, the longer they leave these tannin, things that have tannins in the wine, the more tannic it will become. And also down here in the bottom right is a picture of oak. These are oak chips. Sometimes winemakers will add oak chips to wine instead of keeping it in whole wine barrels. Think of it as loose tea. It's a way to get the tannic taste in the wine without the expense of a whole barrel. If you read your wine notes, oftentimes you'll see wines are kept in stainless steel. When you keep a wine in stainless steel, you don't get any of the oakiness. Barrels are flame toasted, so you get smoke, caramel, nutty flavors from a barrel, and you do get tannins. So you know that if a wine is kept in stainless steel, it's going to be really crisp and refreshing and light and not have those oaky qualities. A lot of wine drinkers will already have an idea coming in whether they like oak or they don't like oak. So I always try to make sure to read that part of the wine notes so people kind of have a heads up as whether they're getting an oaky wine or not an oaky wine. And then also, if they don't already know, they're learning something about their own tastes and preferences. The two most common kinds of oak that, I'm sorry, Janet, maybe I can save this somewhere for you. The two most common kinds of oak that you hear about, although there are others, are American and French. And I think this is kind of funny, but American oak is more bitter and stronger flavored. You get a lot more tannins and bitterness and oakiness with American oak. I put arrows beside a couple of important things there. American oak is cheaper, it's more affordable. It puts more tannins in the wine, and you'll likely get aromas of coconut, coffee, smoke, tobacco, and cocoa in your wine. French oak is much more mellow and smooth. It's more expensive, so it's not used as often, and if it is, it will be a higher priced wine. You get less tannins in it. You get the oaky qualities without all the bitterness of a lot of tannins, and you're more likely to get vanilla, honey, nuts, even says balsamic spices from French oak. So French oak's a little fancier, American oak's a little bitter. That's what I find funny, but it's a good way to remember it. Sometimes winemakers are trying to save money. Wine barrels are very expensive, and which, by the way, if you read in your wine notes that wine is made in neutral barrels, neutral oak, you can only get, thanks guys, you only get flavor from an oak barrel 4 times. Think of it as reusing a tea bag. They get flavor from oak 4 times. After that, they can keep the oak or keep the wine in the oak, but you're not really getting any flavor from it anymore. So if something is kept in neutral oak, that just means it's an older barrel that's been used lots of times and there's no flavor in it anymore. Winemakers might put oak chips in. Yeah, for some people, the tannins. I'm looking at questions up here. Yeah, sometimes the tannins, people will say that causes them a headache. I'm not sure. Oak chips are kind of like loose tea. Like I said, they put some of those in. It gives the wine a little bit of oakiness, but not a lot. And oak staves are those wooden slats that barrels are made from. Sometimes winemakers will just put a few slats in a vat of wine. And again, it's like soaking a cinnamon stick in your tea. You get a little bit of flavor from it, but not as much as if it was kept entirely in an oak barrel. There's lots of other words that you'll run into in your winemaking section of your sell sheet. One of them is malolactic fermentation, which is just fun to say. I like this little image because it describes it perfectly. This little guy is a special bacteria that is added to wine if they want malolactic fermentation. Like Zephyr Hills has malolactic fermentation. They add this special little bacteria, and you can see all the malic acid over here. I'm talking with my hands again. Malic acid is really tart and acidic. It makes a wine, you know, I always try to get my guests not to use the word sour. We say it's acidic or tart. And so this little bacteria eats up all the malic acid, and then I don't know if it really comes out his other end there, but somehow he converts it into lactic acid. And I always ask my guests, I said, what does the word lactic make you think of? And they'll say lactose or lactation, and eventually that leads them to milk. And I'm like, yeah, lactic acid is smooth and buttery and creamy, like you would expect milk or cream or ice cream to be. So by doing this special secondary fermentation process, it makes the wine creamy and buttery and smooth like Zephyr Hills. Peekaboo, for example, and Steeple Street do not have malolactic fermentation. That's why they don't have that same buttery, creamy quality that Zephyr Hills does. All right, when we get to the tasting portion of our wine tasting, and I always ask my guests for a lot of participation. What do you smell? What do you taste? There are no wrong answers. Your tasting sheet here has a list of some of the most popular things that people will say. And I throw them a gold chocolate or, you know, something if they answer something that's on my sheet, because I say these are kind of the most popular things. And sometimes I have to lead them. You know, I'll be like, do you taste any black fruits? Or are there really any really dark things in here? And I try to get them to pull these things out. But there's no wrong answer. Smell and taste is chemistry, and everybody's brain interprets it differently. So if somebody says that they smell green pepper and I don't, I'm not going to tell them that. I'm just going to say, yes, awesome, great, because everybody is an individual. So let them call out and answer whatever they want and give them a pat on the back. Here, well, the smells that we recognize are from chemical compounds. So when somebody says they smell or taste grapefruit in a wine, their brain is recognizing the chemicals in a grapefruit are also in that wine. I tell people it's like their brain recognizing shapes in the clouds. They're not really there, obviously, but our brain has to assign a name that it recognizes to everything. Smells are the same. So we say we smell grapefruit, we smell banana, we smell grass or chocolate in our wine. It's just recognizing the chemicals. These three are just some of the examples. If you look these up online, there's a ton of them. But for example, esters over here on the left. Esters smell like apple, strawberry, raspberry, banana, and white flowers. So if somebody says their Fasada smells like strawberry, that's just because they're recognizing the same ester in that wine that is in a strawberry. And you can see the thiols and the pyrazines as well. Pyrazine is where you get grass, bell pepper, peas. I don't know. They just seem like really crisp green things that you might smell in a dry white wine. It's all just chemistry. Humans can only taste 5 flavors. Your tongue does all the work, and there are 5 regions on your tongue that taste sweet, salty, bitter, sour, and umami. Back in my day, it was savory. Now they call it umami, whatever. But you can only taste 5 flavors. But you can smell over 10,000. You can smell a lot more than you can taste. And that's why your sense of smell is so important to tasting wine. 80% of your sense of taste is made up of smell. And that's why we do the Skittle experiment. Don't skip the Skittle. It is so important, and everybody really gets a wow moment. I make everybody eat that first Skittle holding their nose shut, and I tell them, you can probably tell that it's sweet because your tongue can do that on its own. But your brain needs both sets of information to be able to tell what that Skittle actually tastes like. So then I have them open up, and they're like, oh, it's raspberry, it's strawberry, whatever Skittles are supposed to taste like. But it might seem obvious to some of us, but guests are impressed by that. And I always do the second part of the Skittle as well. I talk about sommeliers having really bad manners. I say sommeliers gurgle and slurp and swish and spit. And the reason they're doing that is to mix air with the wine. Because we all know by now, air enhances wine and enhances flavor. So I teach them with the second Skittle to do backward breathing and breathe out through their nose while they're eating the Skittle. And I tell them what you just did is you took that moist, flavorful, warm air, you pushed it up to the roof of your mouth, you pushed it into your sinuses, and you pushed it out through your nose and covered so many more cells with that flavor information. You just gave your brain a lot more information about what you are tasting. So later when you're tasting the wine, that's a little trick that you can do when I say, what do you smell, what do you taste, to really pick out some of those flavors. So don't skip that part. All right, so when it comes down to it, you need to find the balance in your presentations. Even if you do your presentation basically the same all the time, never stop reading, studying, or learning about wine. The more you learn yourself, the more believable and convincing you're going to become, and people will want to buy from you because you know what you're talking about. So keep up on your learning and your studying and find that balance. It's okay to have games and prizes and fun, but make sure your guests are getting a learning experience too, because that's what's going to keep them coming back to you time and time again. And that's all I've got. Thank you very much. I'm going to try to get this off.
Thanks, Gretchen. That was really great. Thank you.
I don't know how to get this off the screen now.
Yeah, and then, oh, are you guys, what did I do? Oh, no, you got, okay. I thought I lost everybody. Does anybody have any questions for Gretchen? I know there were some questions that she was trying to get on the chat. But I wanted to remind everybody that I did record this, so I'll post the recording as soon as it gets uploaded, so sometime tomorrow. And Gretchen, are you able to post your slides on the page?
I'll try to figure it out, yeah.
Okay, well, if you can't, let Nicole know.
I emailed it to you, Heather, so.
Oh, okay.
You know.
Okay, so I can get it out to everybody too. I'll email it and then I'll also post it on the Grape Expectations. Thanks, Nicole. That was a lot of great information. Thank you so much, Gretchen.
Yeah, I'm a science nerd and I had to cut a lot out of it. So if anybody's interested, we could do a part 2 with like more technical stuff.
Yeah, let's do part 2. You guys want to do part 2 next month? Shake your heads. Yeah, okay. I see Desiree said yeah.
Thanks, guys. I don't know why I was nervous. Once I start talking, it just comes out.
No. And if anybody has questions, put them in the chat or, oh yeah, people typed in the chat that they want yes for part 2 next month. So are you up for that?
Sure.
Okay. Do we have a speaker for next month?
I didn't bore everybody to death?
No.
Okay.
Desiree said she's a science nerd too.
I started college as a biology major, and then I hit calculus, and that was the end of my biology career because I can't do math.
All right. And if did anybody did I miss any questions? Yeah, not boring. Melissa said, yes, please, for next month. All right. So March, whatever date that is. March, I'll be on my phone for a team call. March, oh, it's the 12th again for part 2 of science and wine. But yeah, that was fantastic. I know a lot of people said they don't know. I don't know this stuff. I know Melissa.
It's all in your information. All of this came from stuff we already have. Just read it and use Google.
Yeah. Yeah, Melissa Mueller, who's on the call, she's new. I went to her first tasting last weekend and terroirs came up. And I didn't know what it was. We had to look it up. But your explanation was, I mean, I've heard of it and I knew it, but I don't remember Melissa. So your explanation was actually a lot better than what we Googled. It was just hard to explain to somebody like what it was. That was my issue. Any questions? Anybody else? Melissa said she screenshot a lot. Okay. I think that's it. I didn't see anybody like unmute or raise. Well, oh, you don't raise your hand on this. I keep forgetting. But if anybody has questions, just you can post it on the team page or reach out to Gretchen, and then we'll plan for Wine Science Part 2 next month. Awesome. Thank you guys. And have a good night, and we'll chat soon. And I'll post the recording tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you. How do I end this? Oh, what did I do?